What's up, guys? This is King Yak, and welcome back to day 3 of the 25 days of Christmas cubing. So today we're going to be doing the 4x4. So this cube, in case you couldn't tell, is it's a little larger than a 3x3, and at this point when it comes to larger cubes, so 4x4, 5x5, any n by n puzzle as we call them, they all effectively use the same strategy. There are different methods, and I'll get into that just in a bit. But the overall strategy is to reduce this to a 3x3. So if you didn't know, if you only turn the outer layers of a puzzle like this, then it functions the same as just the standard 3x3 Rubik's Cube. So the goal of solving one of these is to reduce it to that state, then solve it like a standard 3x3. And there are different ways to do that. Like, for example, there's for the 4x4 in particular, there's what's called the Yao method, which is the method that I personally use, and I'll get into more as we do the walkthrough solve. But essentially what that is I solve two opposite centers, then instead of solving the rest of the centers like you would with like standard reduction or something like that, I solve three of the cross pieces, then I solve the rest of the four centers, and then proceed with the rest of the cube like usual. And what that does is it helps with the 3x3 stage, so that essentially you save a few moves there and you just jump right into F2L, basically. If some of these things don't make sense, then I would recommend watching the 3x3 video, as I go into a lot more detail about F2L and essentially just the entire 3x3 in that video. But yeah, I feel like that's just about it for 4x4, or like before we need to jump in. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So firstly, I really only solve, when it comes to 3x3, I solve white or yellow first. So because this is skipping some steps in the process of doing 3x3, I am gonna look for either white or yellow to solve first. So I see immediately we have this yellow bar here, and I also see these two yellow pieces here, so one here and one here. So what I want to do is I want to have this yellow bar, I'll put that on the bottom, and I'll align it so that it's vertical like this. So now what that allows me to do is, with these two yellow pieces, what I can do is I can move this yellow piece like this, so that when I bring that down, these two match up. Then, because moving this layer moves my yellow bar out of the way, what I can do is I can move this out of the way, and then I can connect to this yellow bar with the one on the bottom by doing a double rotation like that. So then on the top, again, we already have a white bar, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to the side so I can move this freely without interfering with that. And then I see that the other two white pieces, one here and one here, are already set up. Actually, no, that's a lie. They're not set up for me to align them. I can align them by doing this. Then this piece will move over and match that up. And then because we have this yellow bar at the bottom, we have to set this up in a specific way so that when I solve it, it doesn't mess up this. Because if I just move that up, that's going to move this yellow bar out of the center, and that undoes the work that we already did. So I can get around that by putting these two in the same layer, so that when I move this up, this white bar comes up, it pushes this one out of the way, but it also pushes this out of the way. And what I can do with that is I can rotate the top layer 180 degrees. So now when I fix this and fix this, it solves, this stays where it's at and this stays where it's at, and that allows me to solve both of the centers at the same time. Hopefully that made some resemblance of sense. So now the next step of Yao method is to solve three cross pieces of, and I'm just going to do white because that's what I'm used to. So first I see this blue and white piece as well as this blue and white piece. So I can align these by moving this here, this piece here, and then rotating it into this middle layer. And then I can bring this down to match those two up. And then I'll move that to the side so that it's with the white face. And then I can move that out of the way, so now I can continue to do this freely without messing this up. So then next I see this white and orange as well as this white and orange. So again, I can move this here and pair these two up. Now, when I go to move this over here, this is important because I need to remember in my mind the color scheme of the Rubik's Cube. Because this is an even layered puzzle, there is nothing in the center to tell me where each center goes, so I have to like remember that off the top of my head. And I know that blue is opposite of green and red is opposite of orange. I also know that orange is to the right of blue. Hold on, I'll actually grab a 3x3 to show that. Okay, we're back. So yeah, like I was saying, as you can see with this 3x3, here's blue, and on the opposite it is green, right? And on to the right of blue is orange. I'm not sure if the camera's picking this up as orange, but this is the orange side, this is the red. So with that in mind, I know that this orange piece needs to go to the right of this blue cross, or this blue piece. That way these are in their proper spots to be solved. So then again, I move this out of the way so I can work on this freely. And then last I see this green and white and this green and white. So what I can do is I can do a U2 up on the top so that when I bring this up, these two are matched. And again, I have to remember the color scheme. Green is opposite of blue. So I want to rotate the white face so that when I bring this in, blue and green are opposite of each other. So then now so again, those are the three cross pieces for the Yao method. So now what we do is we solve the four centers, and as far as I know, there are two different ways to solve this. I personally use the half centers method, which just means I solve the left half of the centers first, then I solve essentially the rest of the centers. So to show you what that means is, first I solve this one at the bottom, just so I don't have to worry about it. So I see that there already is an orange piece here, and this does need to be the orange center because that's where the orange cross is at. And I know that when I rotate this up, it's going to be here in the bottom. So there's already a piece here there's already a piece in the exact same spot. So what I can do is move that to the right here, right? So now when I bring this piece up, those two are paired, and then I can put that back into this layer, and now when I rotate back, it's solved in the proper spot. So then next I look for either the blue or the green to solve. In this scenario, it would be easier to solve the blue because I have this piece here and this piece here, which are ready to be paired. So similar to what I did with the first two centers, I can't really do moves and then just leave them because again, that will mess up what I've already solved. So here I know that if I move this piece here, right, that will solve these two, but it'll also kick this out of its spot. So now I can rotate this back so that it's aligned. And now when I put the blue piece back in, the orange goes in with it. And last we have to do the green piece. And we just happen to get lucky and have a green bar already here. So what we can do is we can do well actually we actually got double lucky here. So this is in a layer that doesn't affect what we've already solved. So what I can do is I can just move it up here. Now it's on the green face, but it's not in the right spot, and I can very easily change that because if you remember, we only solved three of the cross pieces, not two. And that's so that we can move this layer freely without messing up this cross piece. So say this were already solved, right? I would move this, and I would break the cross piece and kind of undo work that we already did, which is something we don't want to do. That's why we only solve three, so it just gives us a little more space to work with when solving the rest of the puzzle. So now, because of that, the reason why I bring that up is because now what we can do is we can use this empty slot here to match it up with this misaligned green bar, and now we can freely move that into place without messing up what we already solved. And now when we bring this back, as you can see, that's our three half centers solved. 1, 2, 3. I wasn't sure if it showed up on camera the first time. So now what we do is we solve just the other half and essentially the rest of the four centers. So again, we want to start with orange because that's on the bottom. We just want to get that out of the way. So we have orange piece down here, another one up here. Again, similar to what we did before, we can move this out of the way. And when this piece comes up, they match. So then we rotate that back so that it's in this layer. And when we move that down, again, we have that's one center solved. So the next we want to do either blue or green. And in this case, it's easier to do the green because we can match these up with one move. Then we can move, in this case, we have to move this out of the way first. And then we have to kind of do similar to what we did with the first two centers. So we have to misalign that bottom center so that we can move this into place. And then when we resolve the bottom center, we also solve the one that we're trying to solve as well. And it looks like we got lucky yet again. So we're just going to do essentially the exact same thing. As you can see, we already have 2 bars here and 2 bars here, and they're already aligned in the way that benefits us. So all we have to do is move the red down, do a 180, rotate the top 180 so that when we move the red back, it also solves the blue. And then that's all the center solved plus the first 3 cross edges. So next what we want to do is we want to solve the last cross piece so that the bottom layer is just done. We don't have to worry about that until we do 3x3 stage. So I see that the first red and white piece is here, and then the next red and white piece is here. So what I can do is because I don't want to mess up this this cross piece, I can't just move it in because I'll kick this piece out. So instead what I want to do is I want to move this layer up so that does misalign the cross piece, but now when I go to put this piece in and move this back down, this cross piece is back where it belongs, as you can see here. So again, a lot of and it's not just like 4x4 or anything. Pretty much all puzzles kind of depend on that type of intuition, knowing how to manipulate each piece so that you get what you want. Essentially, I hope that made some just a tiny bit of sense. But now, as you can see, this red white piece is on the top and this one's on the bottom. As you can see, these two pieces, they have a top. These edge pieces, they have a top and a bottom layer. So the reason why we want them in opposites is so that when we slice over like this, they're matched up. So now we have a solved piece, but our centers are misaligned. So we can solve that, or we can fix that by taking this piece out of the layer like this. So I can see now this solved piece is on the top, and now there's just unsolved edges in the middle layer. So now when we slice back, this piece is still saved, and now all the centers are solved once again. So then we can go ahead and put that cross piece in, and now that's our cross. So next we're going to do edge pairing for the rest of the pieces. And then again, things kind of vary here depending on what method you use. I personally use what's called 3-2-3, which means we're going to solve 3 edges, then we solve 2 edges, then we solve 3 again. So I'll try to explain it as we go, but because of how just because of the logic, excuse me, just because of the logic of the puzzle, and again, it kind of comes down to luck. You don't always get a perfect 3-2-3 scenario. Sometimes you might accidentally solve, like, say, sometimes you might accidentally solve 4 instead of 3, or 3 instead of 2. So we'll see how it goes, but again, I'm going to do my best to explain the thought process here. So the very first thing we want to do is slice over like this. I mean, I could slice over like that as well. It wouldn't make a difference, but personally, I slice to the left because that's just what my muscle memory is used to. But yeah, so what I want to essentially do is I want to manipulate, I guess, that's one word, that's one way to put it, these edge pieces in a way so that when I slice back, I solve 3 edges all at once. So what I'll do is first I'll look at, for example, so in my mind, I'm looking at this piece here. So this red and yellow, I want to look at the top because that's the part that's moving back. So I see this red and yellow, and I need to find the other red and yellow to match with it, which happens to be right here. So then what I do is I insert that in here. So now when I slice back, that will solve this red and yellow. But again, I want to do it so that there are 3 solved at once instead of just 1. So next, I see, okay, this red and yellow is going to go here, which means this orange and green right here. I'm going to have to find a better camera angle for the future videos. But this orange and green right here is going to come over this blue and yellow. So I want to find the other orange and green, which is right here. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, right? And then over here where this blue and yellow is at, oh, this is confusing because it's mirrored for me. Right here where the blue and yellow is at, that's where I want the orange and green to go. So I'll insert it like this. So now when I slice back, again, this red and yellow is solved, this orange and green is solved. But as I said before, we want to solve 3 at a time, not just 2. So then the last piece is this red and green because that's above our orange and green. So again, we want this red and green right here in the top layer to come to the bottom. So now when we slice over, we have 1, 2, and now 3 edge pieces all solved. Oh, actually we have 4. See, again, that's what I mean by 3, 2, 3. It's a really good edge pairing method, but it doesn't always work, or it doesn't always go exactly as you might expect it to. So like, for example, we solved 4 edges, now we want to solve essentially the last 4. So the next step in this edge pairing method is to, again, take out, actually when we want to take out 2 edge pieces, but we don't want to put the second one in just yet, so we want to take out 1 solved piece, so that gets saved. And now it's kind of the same concept. I think, okay, this blue and yellow right here is on the top. What needs to be here so that when I slice over, that solves a piece, right? So blue and yellow, in this case, we want the other blue and yellow, and we want this to be at the bottom like that. So now, when we slice over, that solves that blue and yellow. So now we're going to replace this with essentially a junk edge, but it can't just be any edge because, again, this orange and yellow's here. It's the same concept. We want to insert a piece so that when we slice back and fix the centers, that piece is solved. So I kind of didn't really explain that much. So we want the orange and yellow here, right? My thought process is, okay, what piece can I slice over to solve that? This orange yellow here is here. So again, we want to replace this edge piece with this one. So now when we fix the centers, that solves that edge piece. And now we only have 2 edge pieces left. And again, this is kind of like the whole 3, 2, 3. It doesn't always work the way you may intend it to. So now we're only solving 2 edge pieces, as you can see. And because of the logic of the cube, it's impossible to have 1 edge piece that's improperly solved. So this is kind of, again, it's kind of the same principle, but we have to use something a little different here. So first we want to slice over, and well, there's only 2 edge pieces here, so we obviously know this is the one that needs to go here. But as you can see, these are the same color on the bottom, so how do we fix that? So there is a way to flip an edge, and what you do is you take it out. So I will do this. So now you can see that edge piece is on the top layer, and then you put it back in, but you do that in a way that's different than how you took it out. That way it's in a different orientation, and now you can see this green and yellow is now going to pair with this green and yellow when we slice back over. And like I said, because of the logic of the cube, it's impossible to have 1 unsolved edge. So in doing that, we solved the other edge as well. So now now we're back to 3x3 state, and like I said, if we just turn this normally, it will function the exact same as like a standard 3x3 Rubik's Cube. So now the only thing is, we solve this like a 3x3, but there is a chance that we might get what's called a parity error, which is something that is impossible to happen on a 3x3 without taking it apart. So there's 2 different types of parity. There's a OLL parity, which looks like this, where only 1 edge piece is swapped. And there's PLL parity, where I'm not gonna, yeah, I'll mimic it, why not? There's PLL parity where 2 edge pieces are in the wrong spots, like this. And again, both of these are impossible to happen on a 3x3 without taking it apart, but it does happen on a 4x4 sometimes because of how this middle layer causes the puzzle to act. So we're just going to solve this like a normal 3x3. And again, we already have our cross solves, so we don't have to think about that. So we just go straight into the first 2 layers, or F12. So again, we have blue and orange, this white, blue and orange with this blue and orange edge piece, so we can pair that up and solve it like that. And I'm not going to go too in depth into the 3x3 stage because I did go over the 3x3 video. So then now we see this pair, so we can solve this piece or solve that pair by breaking it up and putting it back. The next is this pair, and then finally we have this pair. All right, so we did get OLL parity, and the way I can tell here is because only one edge is solved, which I know is an impossible case on the 3x3. So the way we solve this is very fun. It's a very long algorithm that just manipulates the middle layers so that it will flip pretty much this entire row right here. All of these three pieces right here will be facing up, and this one will be facing out, essentially. So again, the algorithm looks a little something like this. Again, it's really long, and I'd honestly I couldn't really entirely explain to you how it works, but as you can see, just as I had predicted, it swapped to those three pieces, or swap those four pieces in that way. So now we can go ahead and continue with OLL as normal, and let's see. Okay, so we did run into the other parity as well, which is fantastic. Not actually. So here it is. Here's the other parity. What a coincidence that we happen to run into both. This doesn't typically happen. Sometimes you can skip both. Sometimes you get just one or the other. But yeah, so this also requires an algorithm. This one's a lot easier, or not. This one's a lot shorter, and it involves just the middle layers. So it looks a little something like this. And there we go. That's the entire puzzle solved. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into like 4x4, and as a consequence, the higher puzzles. But they all base around that same concept of reduce it to a 3x3 like this. Well, that just happened. But yeah, they all wow. I leave. You know what? I think I'm just gonna leave the video there. Like, comment, subscribe.